Perhaps you've noticed there have been widespread riots affecting this entire country over the past several weeks. Now, it's mostly simmered down, but we still have seen some lower level clashes and rioting. Statues are being torn down. Just the other day, a man was shot in a confrontation with a right-winger who was trying to defend the statue. I know right-winger is kind of a weird way to describe it, but you've got the far left trying to destroy and tear down statues, which they are doing rather effectively. Some right-wing militia people show up. Fight breaks out, dude runs, Antifa far leftists chase after him, start beating him, he defends himself. Things are getting pretty crazy. Well, if you thought it would simply end at these people are protesting and we just need to give them what they want, if you thought that's where it's going to end, you would be completely wrong. I'll tell you what they want. They want to put you in re-education camps. Not all of them, not every single protester, just the high-profile leftists of social media with their little fancy check marks. Here we have a man who goes by the name Palmer Report. And he basically says we should rehabilitate any conservatives who are willing to try. We should pay for them to undergo therapy and retraining so they can understand the world around them. But first, we must get them out of positions of influence because they're infringing on the rights of others. Oh, I want to read you everything this guy says. But first, I want to show you this article from the Washington Times. Guillotine the rich. Sanders staffer says he's ready for armed revolution. And they said Republicans must be sent to re-education camps. Not every single person on the left is calling for this. The problem is you have high-profile people on the left calling for this. Should I sit back and make the assumption they don't want to round people up and put them in camps? No, they're telling you they want to do it. And this individual worked for a high-profile presidential campaign. And when this story broke that a presidential campaign staff were calling for armed insurrection and putting people in re-education camps, where was the New York Times? Where was the high-profile wall-to-wall news coverage saying extremists are breaking into mainstream politics? Nowhere to be seen. The story received a little bit of coverage, mostly from conservative outlets. Yet, if you were to go to this Palmer Report fella, he's going to tell you that we must rehabilitate the conservatives. Now, it's a little bit different from saying put them in camps. I'll read you what he actually said. Glenn Greenwald calls it one of the most unhinged rants you will ever read from a large verified account on this website. Really something to behold. Now, you may be asking yourself, what could conservatives have possibly done to warrant mandatory re-education camps and rehabilitation? Why would this man, Palmer, whatever is, I don't know who he is, why would he say that conservatives were infringing on the rights of others? You're going to be shocked by this, okay? The crime committed by this conservative man. I cannot believe he thought he would get away with this. Dare he wear a T-shirt? That's it. He wore a T-shirt for One America News. That's really it. He was wearing a One America News T-shirt. That's why this dude is saying conservatives must be rehabilitated. Because One America News, with a moderately small viewership, is offensive. Because Trump likes it, I guess. I'm sorry, man. These people have absolutely lost the plot. Look, we got a lot of stuff going on, right? Check out this cover from the New York Post. Sick hypocrisy. This is fine. This is dangerous. On one side, you have tens of thousands of Black Lives Matter protests. On the other side, people having a drink. We know what the governor is doing. We know who they're supporting. What if I were to show you this? In the past 24 hours, Jamila Jamil, Chelsea Handler, and Jessica Chastain have shared on Instagram a video of vicious anti-Semite Louis Farrakhan discussing racism. They say extraordinary, powerful. They have over 10 million followers. It's a revolutionary time, so I'm going to throw something out there, this guy says. Maybe one reason why we shouldn't downplay or dismiss concerns about bad ideas among marginalized or powerless people is because elites might someday find them attractive or useful and boost them. Yes, because we are now seeing fringe, lunatic, high-profile leftists on Twitter with verification badges calling for the rehabilitation of conservatives, the removal of them from influence and power, the unhinged rants. I got to tell you what, man, I got to be honest with all of you. I actually was freaked out when I saw this. This video from Farrakhan from the 90s, where the opening question is him basically, I could be wrong about this, but it sounds like he's saying the races must be kept separate or something to that effect. It's scary stuff. And Chelsea Handler defends him, saying that his anti-Semitic views are rooted in his oppression. I don't care. I don't care why he wants to, what his view, I don't care where his views come from. I care about the fact that this is a man who is highly influential being propped up, and he is an overt anti-Semite who calls for really, really insane things. But he's being propped up. Now, this stuff truly, truly is scary. But let's take a look at this story really quick. The Philadelphia Inquirer. Oklahoma State RB Chuba Hubbard calls out Mike Gundy for wearing OAN shirt. Teammates show support. They say last week, Marvin Wilson led a group of Florida State players who refused to work out after a miscommunication in a message from head coach Mike Norvell. Texas wide receiver Brennan Eagles vowed not to play another snap until the school fixes its race issues. On Monday, Oklahoma State running back and Heisman candidate Chuba Hubbard posted on Twitter his disapproval of a photo showing head coach Mike Gundy wearing a One America News Network t-shirt and said he will not be doing anything with Oklahoma State until things change. OANN is described as a far-right cable news network that has been praised by President Donald Trump. The timing of the photo appeared insensitive to Hubbard, he said. After Hubbard's tweet, current and former Oklahoma State players began to back him. Star linebacker Amen Ogbongbemiga was one of the first teammates to show support. Ogbongbemiga was a 2019 second-team All-Big 12 selection by conference coaches and is regarded as one of the best defenders on the team. He says, I stand with him. Fifth-year senior Tevin Jenkins also tweeted the offensive line's support. As an O-line, we stand in support of Chuba. It's not just the current players, the Oklahoma State, former All-American running back Justice Hill, and 2019 second-team All-Big 12 cornerback A.J. Green shared posts on Twitter as well. OSU athletics and university need major change, 100% support, brother. Oklahoma State has yet to issue a comment. Well, because this man dare wear his t-shirt. Look, if you want to say you're not going to work for someone because you don't like their view, you're not going to work with someone over their views and stuff like that, I get it. You are free to call for change. You really are. Look, this guy Mike Gundy wore a One American News shirt. I really think this is getting insane where people are like, how dare you watch a certain news outlet? Okay, whatever, man. But hey, you're allowed to do it. And you know what might happen? They might side with you. They might side against you. I'm not a big fan of cancel culture war type issues where it's like, dude, the guy's wearing a t-shirt, play football, okay? Separate all this stuff from the game and let's just carry on. But you know what? I'll respect their right to call out what they don't personally want to be involved with. Fine. But you know what? Maybe you should just choose to leave instead of choosing other people can't express themselves. Therein lies the big problem, the authoritarianism. You are wearing a shirt. I refuse. You must do something for me. When I encounter people who do things I don't like, there are certain circumstances where I'll say like, nah, man, you can't do that. You got to stop that. And there are certain circumstances where I'll be like, I'm out. Typically, I defer to the I'm out. That's me. It's a libertarian thing, right? It's the more freedom-based issue. When I'm playing a game and people are like, we want to do a game this way. Like, we want to play this game with this rule. I'll be like, nah, that's cool. You do your thing. I'm out. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to force you to change. I'm just going to be like, I'm done. I'll leave. Now let's see how the irrational left responds. Palmer Report said, we shouldn't be cold-hearted about this. But having a conservative as police officer, for instance, isn't much different from having a Klan member as a police officer. It's just not something that a civilized society can ever tolerate. Bro, you do realize that there are police who live in blue cities who vote for Democratic politicians. Like, do you not understand that a lot of these police are public union guys who vote for Democrats who support public unions? We should rehabilitate any conservatives who are willing to try. We should pay for them to undergo therapy and retraining so they can understand the world around them. But first, we must get them out of positions of influence because they're infringing the rights of others. Conservatism means you don't believe in equality. It means you want it all for yourself, and you're willing to destroy other groups of people to take it all for yourself. That's not a crime against the law, but it's a crime against humanity. We must acknowledge as much. Conservatives cannot be teachers, police officers, doctors, lawyers, coaches, or bosses. Or bosses? You literally think they can't own a company? It's constitutionally unfair to others who are subjected to the conservatives' deranged judgment. Conservatives can do menial work until they're ready to join the human race. And therein lies the shocking problem of today's culture war. No, my friends, we are not talking about the far-right extremists coming in with their militias and their white supremacy versus the liberals just trying to defend the good-natured world and defend equality. Quite literally, this man is talking about conservatives, not the far right. He's talking about regular Americans who work regular jobs, maybe work in a factory, maybe work in an office, and they come back and say, you know, I think we got some issues with immigration, and they vote for it. That's who he's talking about. No, what we really have in this culture war is the fringe far left extremists who work for high-profile presidential campaigns calling for re-education camps versus civil libertarians. And what I mean by that are people who are like, live and let live. Now, this phrase I've been using as of recent was part of a thread from Barry Weiss of the New York Times talking about the conflict between the under 40 wokes and the over 40 civil libertarians. These are people who think, you know, you do your thing, I'll do my thing. We'll go and vote. We'll sort things out. Free speech, free expression, open inquiry. I have my political opinions, but I will, you know, I don't agree with what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. That was something that was held by liberals and conservatives alike for a long time, and something changed. The new generation of the left has gone completely insane. And don't take my word for it, because Matt Taibbi, a liberal journalist for the Rolling Stone, says basically the same thing. Right now, they have become, what did he say? A roving band of Twitter Robespierres going from discipline to discipline, destroying reputations and getting people fired. They go one step beyond this, man. Listen, conservatives, unfortunately, aren't doing anything. Now, I know they vote, they have families, they have jobs, but let's be real. Antifa and the far left are out in the streets all the time for the past almost a month, like 20 plus days. The far left has been out in the streets screaming and making demands. And guess what? People are listening. How many conservatives have been going out and protesting? Very few. Now, I know, I'll be fair. You got an uphill battle, conservatives. You got people like this who are verified calling for your re-education, and Twitter allows it. But the conservatives who stand up and fight back on Twitter, many of them often get banned. Yep, maybe you still have to keep standing up. I know you have kids, you have families. Not everybody, but a lot of you. And you don't want to risk your families. But I think the bigger concern is you might be worried about losing your job today, but think about the world you leave behind for your kids anyway. Man, how many people do I know who have said to me they don't know if they want to have kids anymore because of how insane things are and they don't want to leave them this world? Well, I think the problem is you're not fighting for a better world. The left is fighting for the world they want. And guess what? They're winning it because they go out in the streets, they throw bricks, they do crazy things, and they force people to bend to their will. This is why you get this New York Post front page. Sick hypocrisy. This is fine. This is dangerous. That's right. They say liberals, media cheer protests, but say outdoor restaurants, bars are COVID risks. More than that, they say going to church is a COVID risk. They say you can't sing in church. Man, that's crazy. I remember back in the day when they were like, this is a threat to religious liberty. And the left, the liberals were like, oh, calm down. The slippery slope isn't going to happen. Boom, here we are. You've got now Twitter allowing these things to happen, banning people on the right, Facebook and YouTube as well. This is what you get, man. I'm lucky to be at least where I am right now on YouTube. But I've legit, look, a couple days ago, I do segments at 6 p.m. They're shorter than this. So at 10 a.m., I do a 20-minute segment. At 1 p.m., a 20-minute segment. At 4 p.m. on my main channel over at timcast.net, I do a 20 to 25-minute segment. And then I do 3 around 10 or 11-minute segments at 6. A couple days ago, someone at YouTube flagged all of them as hate speech. And I had to try and escalate this, and it suppressed and knocked down all of the video views. I had to reach out to Google and say, hey, somebody's flagging my videos as hate speech. And they weren't. It was just kind of this stuff I'm saying right now. Hey, let's live and let live. Let's respect the protesters and stand up for what we believe in. And they said it was hate speech. No. In fact, it was one of the videos was me condemning blackface. They said it was hate speech. They don't like my opinions. They don't like the fact that I'm resisting. And so fortunately, somewhat, it did get overturned. And then all of a sudden the views slowly came back, but it really, really negatively impacted the channel. And this happens all the time. I'm on the razor's edge, man. They've banned a ton of people. Now, I think there's a lot more people to the right of me who are more likely to get banned first, but it's coming, man. It really is. Don't like you got to look back 10 years to see where they were in terms of hate speech and stuff. They've increasingly changed definitions, and now it's made it all the way to the Supreme Court. They said in 2010, look, biological sex is different from gender, right? Because gender is a social construct. Then the definitions changed. Now it basically means the exact same thing. And the Supreme Court ruled, well, gender identity is attached to sex. Therefore, they changed the definitions. Therefore, the laws change. It's exactly what I said was going to happen. If you've been following my content for a long time, you may have heard me say this a year ago. Instead of trying to change the law, they're trying to change the definition of words, so the laws inherently mean something different. The Supreme Court just did this. All right? Now, I agree with the conclusion of the Supreme Court about gender identity discrimination, stuff like that. I disagree with how it was brought about. So for the most part, it's like it's a rock and a hard place. Like, well, I do agree you shouldn't be able to discriminate. But anyway, I don't want to go off on a tangent about that. I'm simply highlighting that what you're seeing today, expect it to be 10 times worse in the next several years. And you know what? What do I hear from most conservatives? Yeah, I don't know. They're prepping, hiding out. They're not protesting, not speaking up. And it kind of bums me out. Now, I don't know if protesting is the right idea. I don't know what you can do. And honestly, at this point, I got to say, maybe there's nothing you can do. Regular Americans who believe in freedom are at a disadvantage. These people have lied. They've cheated, they've stolen, and it brought them great advantages. They've made tons of money off this. Look what they're doing right now. This is cheating, okay? Let me explain to you how cheating works. You've got Donald Trump as president. Donald Trump wants to hold a rally in Tulsa. They say it's racist to do it in Tulsa because of the Tulsa massacre. Then he says, well, we're going to do it in Tulsa. What do you want us to do? And they said, well, the date's also racist because it's Juneteenth. He says, okay, I'll move it. Then they say COVID. What about COVID? Oh, no, you can't. There's a pandemic. Are you kidding me? There's tens of thousands of people shoulder to shoulder in New York City marching and protesting, and they've been doing it every day for 19 days. And now they're coming out and saying Donald Trump shouldn't do this. It's a mistake. He's going to get people sick. Guess what happens? So Trump says, maybe then we'll do it outside. And guess what they said? They said Trump is caving because he's weak. And he's wrong. And now it's going to be too hot and people will pass out from heat stroke. There is literally nothing you can do to appease them because they are cheating. And they say you should be re-educated. Well, conservatives at least. Maybe you find yourself in a similar position to I, being a rather moderate individual, not super conservative, actually used to be fairly liberal until these people went insane. I still think, for the most part, I'm fairly liberal. I literally was arguing with Scott Adams on Twitter about systemic racism and how he doesn't understand it. And that's fine, whatever. Maybe I'll do a segment about it. Systemic racism is a complicated thing. It's real, but you're not going to get a legit definition from many of these leftists because they have no idea what they're talking about. So I'm not going to get into all of that, however. But the general idea is it has to do with systems put in place from the past. Some people call it legacy racism or something like that, legacy problems. But we can talk about that stuff in the future. The point is, I am a fairly liberal person. I made a documentary about systemic and institutional racism, and I can explain it rather articulately, I suppose. So if there are conservatives who are interested and disagree, we can have a real conversation about it. Unfortunately, for many people on the left, they're just lying. They don't know what they're talking about. They won't tell you. They won't talk about this, that they had this massive protest. It's also fascinating to me when I see one person will tweet in 10 minutes, in the same span of a few minutes, they'll say, how could Trump do this? He's going to get people sick. And then they'll post a video of the protest like, this is fantastic. This is awesome. What do you do when they're cheating? I don't know, man, but I'll tell you what, if you sit back and do nothing, they will keep cheating. They will take your jobs from you. They will tell you your shirt is racist, therefore you must be fired. And then while this is happening, this is a dramatic escalation of cancel culture. They're saying, put them in camps, put them in re-education camps. Okay, it's not just this one staffer for Bernie Sanders who said Republicans need to be put in re-education camps. It's also now high-profile verified Twitter accounts. This is not every single person on the left, but I will tell you this. It needs to be taken seriously because you may have noticed high-profile celebrities are propping up Louis Farrakhan, an overt anti-Semite. Why? Because as this individual said, people in power will adopt them because they're useful to them. How did we end up in a world where high-profile leftist comedians are propping up overt anti-Semitism? Well, it's beyond me, man. Let me tell you something. People often ask, and forgive me for using the analogy, how is it that people in Nazi Germany just went along with everything? because they didn't know what they were going along with. I think it's a fair point. They saw somebody saying, I'm going to fix things. You're oppressed. You're a victim. It's not your fault. The problem was the French and the reparations to the French over World War I. It's not fair. The debt wasn't our fault. They're oppressing our people across the border. It's literally the things that he was preaching in World War II in Germany. And these people were like, sounds good to me. Now you have people hearing similar things. Now listen, you want to talk about police brutality and all that stuff? I'm right there with you. You want to say George Floyd should not have been killed? Oh, 100%. Let's make sure people's constitutional rights are defended. You even want to argue that Rayshard Brooks, the man in Atlanta, should not have been killed? I will absolutely entertain your position. I disagree. I think he shouldn't have been killed for sure, but it's a very complicated circumstance. Let's be honest. In Atlanta, the dude fought, grabbed a weapon, ran and fired it at a cop. So we got a tough situation how to fix this. But if you want to come back and promote Farrakhan, now we got some serious problems. That's way over the line. And these are high profile people propping it up. And guess what? I'll tell you how people just go along with it. All of our followers are like, wow, I didn't know. Wow, that's so great. Not realizing. I asked a good friend of mine, very much lefty. And I said, do you know what this means? And they said, no. Why? Who's Farrakhan? I said, that's exactly it. That's why when they post all of this stuff propping up these celebrities who are entertaining this, they do it mindlessly, not realizing they're promoting some insane stuff. Meanwhile, while they're promoting Farrakhan, you got other high-profile people calling for re-education of conservatives. If the police are going to stand by and let these mobs tear down public property, a violation of the law, and then blame the right-wing groups who simply said, don't break the law, I think we know where we're headed. If New York and Fort Worth are going to say protesters for Black Lives Matter are going to have their charges dropped, yet churchgoers are not allowed to, go to church, I think we know where we're heading, man. I wish there was some way. I hope there's some way everything can simmer down, but it really does feel like we're on a one-way track. I got to be honest. They won't recognize the cheating. They will tell you are wrong, and they will do this at the exact same time. Now, I can't speak for the Trump supporters or anything like that. I can only speak for the more libertarian-minded individuals, former liberals, the politically homeless, because I don't want to have anything to do with any of the violence. Man, I just want to carry on, and maybe there's something you can do. I don't know, man. I know that one thing you can do is start speaking up, and maybe that could bring about the change. Maybe these companies will be forced to back down. Listen, I don't want there to be any civil breakdown or violence or any unrest or like that. I don't want it to happen. But you know what needs to happen first to prevent it? I think people need to start speaking up at their jobs. And they say, but what if I get fired? How will I feed my kids? Bro, you won't get fired if literally every person stood up and did it. If every person said, shut up, no. Then they can't fire you because it would be everybody. But people are scared and they won't say anything. So what do? They send private messages to people saying, man, this is getting crazy, huh? Yeah, they send private messages to high profile personalities who call this stuff out. That's not enough. You got to tweet them yourself. You got to stand up for yourself because no one else will do it. The left is doing it. Why aren't you? I'm saying the opposite of getting violent. Do not go out and do that with what these people are. I'm talking about the people who go on Twitter and screech, like banshees. It's time to start speaking up for what you believe in. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at timcast.net, and I will see you all then.